You'd be excused for not knowing there was an election underway this weekend across South Australia. It's for the SA voice to Parliament. I haven't seen terribly much about it, saying get out and vote. It isn't compulsory, not compulsory to vote, so perhaps that's why. But, council elections aren't compulsory, but we hear a lot about them. There are a number of groups, of Indigenous groups here in South Australia, communities, who say they haven't heard much about it. And they're shocked to hear details of how the Voice to Parliament will work in South Australia, according to one report in The Australian anyway. The Mirning community out in the western part of the state, shocked to hear details of the model. And they go further. A fellow called Robert Laurie from the Mirning community says once the vote goes ahead, the ramifications will be terrible to imagine. Innocent Aboriginal people, is the quote, within SA will become victims of a controlled process that will further divide families and communities, while a small handful will make decisions affecting all Aboriginal people without majority support and without traditional integrity. So that's in the Australian, in yesterday's Australian, in fact. Sarah Game has had similar conversations with other Indigenous groups. Of course, Upper House One Nation MP here in South Australia. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning.
What are people telling you?
Look, I'm hearing exactly the same thing, Matthew, as well, which is that the Aboriginal communities that have reached out to me are very worried that not only is this going to be divisive, but they're going to be left without a voice. And I think that I have spoken about this before, but I think it can be difficult for people to understand. One of the biggest confusions that has occurred here is this is a piece of legislation that's been named the Voice. And I feel that it's been presented as, do we want a voice for Aboriginal people? I mean, of course we want a voice for Aboriginal people. Certainly everybody in Parliament, I believe, wants a voice for Aboriginal people, and I believe strongly as well that the vast majority of the community, it feels that way as well. But it's been misleading to have a piece of legislation named the Voice, because what I'm concerned about is that the Aboriginal people are going to be left without a voice. And as you say, one of the themes that has come through very strongly in the dissatisfaction here is different communities speaking out on behalf of other communities. And it's my understanding from what's being communicated to me that that is deeply, deeply offensive to Aboriginal people. And yet that is the model in which this is based on. I mean, we're going to end up with over 100 people as part of this model, yet only one person from that 100 will come and represent the views to Parliament. I mean, how is that going to work?
So that's what you mean by the Voice will leave people without a voice if communities feel unrepresented because a different community has been, or someone from a different community has been elected to speak on their behalf?
Well, first of all, we know there are Aboriginal communities saying, hang on, we didn't really even know about this, and we've got nobody from our community who's even nominated themselves. How can we be represented? And then we have other communities saying, well, even if we did know about it, we don't want somebody speaking on behalf of us that doesn't work, that's deeply offensive to our culture. And then we've got a model that's based on that, based on funneling this down to one representative coming in and speaking on behalf of all Aboriginal people. And I'd go back and say we never should have started with this. As anyone who knows my view on this knows, I believe in needs-based support, not race or ancestry-based support. We're about to spend $10.3 million, and that's before we've helped a single individual. That's just establishing this new bureaucratic arm. And we've already got well-paid representatives. I mean, everybody in Parliament, all the members of Parliament, should have higher expectations, I think, from the community on themselves to represent people and to represent people in need. And we already have an Aboriginal Affairs Minister, and I think that's where the pressure needs to be in how we represent people and listen to people better, no matter what their race or heritage background is. I don't believe the answer is to simply establish a group of another 100 people.
All right. Well, we'll know more about it after